Detachment is one of the most misunderstood ideas ever, not because it is complex, but because it sounds uncomfortable. People hear the word detachment and immediately think of distance, coldness, disconnection, as if detachment means you stop caring, you stop feeling, you stop being human. But that is not detachment. That is escape, and escape always disguises itself as wisdom. True detachment is far more difficult, because it does not ask you to withdraw from life. It asks you to stay fully involved, without losing yourself inside it. That is where most people fail. They don't know how to stay involved, without becoming dependent. So they choose one of two extremes. Either they attach deeply and lose their stability, or they detach incorrectly and lose their depth. Both are forms of imbalance, and both lead to the same thing: suffering. Because attachment creates fear, and false detachment creates emptiness. So the question is not, how do I detach? The real question is, what exactly am I detaching from? Because you are not detaching from people, you are not detaching from work, you are not detaching from effort. You are detaching from your psychological dependence on outcomes. That is the difference. You still act, you still care, you still give your best, but your internal state does not collapse based on what happens next. This is not weakness. This is control, and not control over the world, but control over yourself. That is the only control that is real. Most people suffer, not because of what happens, but because of what they expect to happen. Expectation creates attachment, attachment creates pressure, and pressure distorts perception. You stop seeing clearly, you start reacting emotionally, and slowly your decisions stop coming from clarity. They start coming from fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of not getting what you want. And in that fear, you lose your center. That is what attachment does. It shifts your stability from within you to something outside you, and the moment you do that, you become fragile, because anything outside you can change at any moment without your permission. That is reality. And reality does not negotiate with your expectations. This is why detachment is not a philosophy. It is a survival mechanism. It is the ability to function in a world that is constantly shifting without constantly breaking. Ancient teachings understood this deeply. In the Bhagavad Gita, the idea was never to abandon action. It was to abandon your attachment to the result of action, not because results don't matter, but because they are never fully in your control. You control effort, you do not control outcome, and confusing the two creates suffering. Detachment separates them. It allows you to give everything to the process without being destroyed by the result. This changes how you live. You stop acting out of desperation. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop clinging to certainty. Instead, you act with clarity. You move with awareness. And you accept that uncertainty is not a flaw of life, it is the structure of life. This is why detachment feels difficult. Because it removes the illusion of control, and the mind hates that. The mind wants guarantees. It wants assurance. It wants things to stay the same, but nothing stays the same. Not people, not situations, not emotions, not even you. Everything is in motion, and attachment tries to freeze that motion. Detachment understands it and works with it. This is the real shift, from resistance to alignment. When you are attached, you resist change. When you are detached, you adapt to it. That is strength. And this strength is quiet. It does not look dramatic. It does not look emotional. It looks calm, stable, grounded, and that calmness is often misunderstood. People think you don't care, but the truth is you care deeply, just not desperately. You are involved, but not consumed. You are present, but not dependent. This is why detachment improves relationships, because you stop trying to control people. You stop expecting them to behave according to your needs. You allow them to be who they are. And you decide your response from clarity, not from emotional reaction. That is maturity, not emotional suppression, but emotional mastery. And there is a difference. Suppression hides emotion. Mastery understands it. Detachment is mastery. It is awareness without attachment. It is action without anxiety. It is care without fear. And once you understand this, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, how do I make things stay the same? And you start asking, how do I remain stable even when things change? That is the real question. Because life will change. That is guaranteed. People will change. Situations will change. Outcomes will change. And if your stability depends on them, you will always be unstable. But if your stability comes from within, then nothing outside you can fully break you. This is the power of detachment, not distance from life, but freedom within it. And once you experience that, you don't become cold, you become clear. And clarity is far more powerful than emotional intensity, because intensity fades, clarity stays. And when clarity stays, you stop suffering unnecessarily, you stop reacting blindly, you stop losing yourself in things that were never permanent. That is when detachment is no longer misunderstood. It becomes obvious, not as an idea, but as a way of living. This channel gives raw perspective of the real life. Consider subscribing for more wisdom.